This is perfect for the New York Islanders as Mathieu Darche recently went on a podcast and talked about his plan for the goaltending next season, including an injury update to Varlamov, which is really nice to hear, especially considering that if Lou Lamoriello still was the general manager, we would have no idea if Varlamov was even capable of playing hockey again until whether or not he showed up at training camp. So it's nice to get an update, and we're going to discuss what this means for the Islanders next season, because I truly believe that the best version of the Islanders, a version of the Islanders that has any shot at all of making the playoffs, has Varlamov as the backup goaltender. Really quickly before we get into the updates, we are on the road to reaching 2,000 subscribers. Appreciate all the support as we continue to put out Islander videos every single day. If you're an Islander fan and you have not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Let's get right into talking about Varlamov and this update that Mathieu Darche provided us. And it's really encouraging. Varlamov is skating, or at least he's going to be skating next week. That is what he said in the podcast. And this is exactly what you want to hear as an Islander fan. Again, as I said before, I truly believe that the best version of the Islanders does have Varlamov as the backup goaltender. I know what we saw last season was rough, and he is 37 years old, but keep in mind this was a goaltender who was fighting through injuries early until November, and if he really is healthy or on the road to being healthy, even a version of Varlamov that is no longer 100% capable of what he was, if he is 90% of his old self, this is the best route when it comes to the backup goaltender position. Mathieu Darche gave some further quotes when talking about Varlamov and why he went out and got David Riddic, especially considering that Varlamov is expected to be healthy. And this is something that I think confused a lot of fans. Definitely a lot of casual people watching the Islanders assumed that when Varlamov did not finish the season and then the Islanders went out and got a backup goaltender in David Riddic, it was assumed that Varlamov would not be coming back at all and potentially that his season was done, his career was done, and he would just be on the LTIR for the last 2 years. There's been a lot of pushback on that when it comes to reporters who really know the Islanders well, and now Mathieu Darche has come out and clarified that the plan is for Varlamov to play next season. He specifically said, "What I've been told is that his rehab is progressing well. He's getting on the ice next week, I believe." And then he added, which I actually love. He said, "Obviously, my job is to protect the organization, so I bought another goalie in David Riddic. We hope Varlamov is healthy, but we'll see at that point. He's had a great career and a tough year last year with injuries, with surgery. They told me rehab is going well, but I still have to protect the organization because it's a big role." And this is what we want to see, especially with a new general manager having the foresight to make sure this goaltending position is secure. Last season, the Islanders went in with a solid plan, being Ilya Sorokin as a starter and Varlamov as a backup. And when he need be, Varlamov could step in and be a 1B goaltender. This is something we have seen in the past with the Islanders. I don't expect us to see it in the future, but it was an option. It really highlights how good of a goaltender Varlamov is. The issue is, last season when Varlamov got hurt, Lou Lamoriello had no conception of a third string plan. Hogberg, while he did play good at moments last season, he should really not be getting into NHL games. And while he did make some big saves at the start, I always thought that his positioning looked absolutely not qualified to be in the NHL. And once he came back after a stretch of injury, he showed that he just was not capable of holding down the fort. Forget about getting away with games where Hogberg was in the net. There were multiple times where the Islanders played a game that they should have won, and Hogberg absolutely blew it. One game in Nashville where he came in the third period after Ilya Sorokin got hurt and the Islanders being precautious, and he let up, 4 goals in the 3.5 minutes he played in the game. It was horrific to watch, and in hindsight, it worked out perfectly for the Islanders because they ended up getting the first overall pick, but in the future, they're going to need somebody who can better tend the net. And Varlamov as a backup is an incredible option. And I do want to consider, especially for fans who are just kind of done with Varlamov and don't really want to see him at all next season and just want to see Riddic, I want to really focus you into this point here where Before last season, Varlamov has been incredible for the Islanders, putting up above 910 save percentages in every single season with the team. In fact, in most of his seasons with the Islanders, Varlamov averaged around a 918. He has been incredibly reliable, and in the backup role, 2 seasons ago, when the Islanders did make the playoffs, if you remember, he really took the starting role from Sorokin at the end of the season. And while I do think this was just a temporary push to try to make the play, it just shows how good Varlamov can play when he's healthy. And I don't think this is the version of Varlamov we are going to see this season. We're going to see much more of a backup. Again, he is 37. I'm not expecting him to completely bounce back, but that version of him that was playing hurt last season that put up an 889, I definitely think there's more to his game than the 10 games he showed last season. I think, if anything, we're probably going to get more at this point, some 907 save percentage, maybe 904, something around that range. Again, keep in mind, save percentage is going down in the NHL, and when we talk about this, you got to keep that in mind too when it comes to his numbers last season. They were not good, but looking around the NHL at backup goaltenders, there was a lot worse than Varlamov's 889. The issue was that he was not healthy, and that is a concern with Varlamov, which is why it made so much sense for the Islanders to bring in Riddic. But even considering the rough year Varlamov had last season, make no mistake, the best version of this Islanders team is one that has Varlamov playing 30 games to back up Ilya Sorokin, maybe even a few more games, just so Sorokin is not overworked. But that is the best version of the Islanders. And looking at Riddic, that is something I do want to really highlight, because I think a lot of people just assume that Riddic was the number one plan when it came to backup this offseason. It's clear that he is an insurance option, and based off the way he played last season for the Kings, he should be an insurance option. I love that Darche brought in another backup goaltending option, especially considering that while he could get claimed off waivers, you can send him down and hopefully have him play in the NHL if he doesn't make the team. But looking at his stats last season, you can tell why Dave Riddic is a backup option to Varlamov. We've been complaining about the 889 save percentage Varlamov put up in 10 games. Riddic played 34 games, so a much larger sample size for the Kings, and put up an 897. And keep in mind, when it comes to Riddic, he was playing, sorry, it's an 887, I believe. Keep in mind, Riddic was playing a lot more games for the Kings than really he should have. And this Kings team it's really important when we talk about him being on the Kings last season, because it's not like he was playing on a team like the Sabres, which was providing no defensive support. The Kings statistically were the best defensive team in the entire NHL last year. Their other goaltender, their starter, was a Vezina caliber goaltender because of that defense, and yet Riddic couldn't even put up a 900 save percentage throughout his career. Really, he's been really inconsistent. Apologize. Los Angeles last season, he actually put up a 921 in 24 games. So there is potential for Riddic to play well. And I am saying, like, in terms of having a third string goaltender, Riddic is an incredible option. But I think the reason why he signed this contract with the Islanders is, realistically, most teams were not going to give him a reliable look when it comes to a backup position after what he did last year in the NHL with the Kings. It was rough. And with the Islanders, he has an opportunity, especially considering Varlamov might not be completely healthy. There's also risk that even if he is healthy to start the season, he has struggled with injuries in the past. So I think with Riddic, the Islanders was just a better opportunity to potentially get into NHL games. But looking at his recent seasons, there have been a couple years where it was really questionable, especially when he wasn't playing with the Kings. Again, one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. I don't like what they did with their unit this season. Before this, they have been a dominant defensive team for a long time. And most years, his save percentage was 9 before the really good year last 2 seasons ago. It was 901, 986, 988, 904. Career-wise, he is a 904 NHL backup, never really playing more than 40 games in the NHL. And that is just something to keep in mind when it comes to Riddic, and why I believe that it's perfect for the Islanders that Varlamov is looking like he is going to be healthy for the start of the year, because out of these two goaltenders, I don't know if the Islanders can really push for a playoff spot if Riddic is playing 34 games for them. I do think if Varlamov plays 30 or so games for them, they can make the playoffs. And there's potential that perhaps it is a combination of the two. If there are injuries, perhaps David Riddic gets in 10 games, Varlamov 25, and then Sorokin the remaining games before the Islanders to be the best versions of themselves. I definitely think Varlamov needs to be playing as many games as he can as the backup because he just provides so much more security. And even at his older age, I still think he has the potential to be one of the better backups in the NHL. I no longer think this Islanders tandem is one of the best tandems in the NHL, especially due to Varlamov's injury. But the best version of this Islanders team is one where Varlamov bounces back. So it's good that it's looking like he's at least going to have the health to have the potential to do that. Let me know in the comments what you think of this goaltending situation. Do you want Varlamov to be the backup to start the year, or are you really curious to have David Riddic get a look and potentially have the opportunity to beat Varlamov out? Again, I am a firm believer that Varlamov is the better goaltender of the two, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.